Welcome back to the Explainer. So, you get to the end of the day, right? You look down at that piece of paper just completely covered in unchecked boxes, and immediately you get that familiar, crushing wave of guilt. Well, if that's you, honestly, take a deep breath because I've got some incredibly good news for you. That feeling of overwhelm, it's not a personal failure. It is 100% a system failure. Today we're going to tear down pretty much everything you thought you knew about productivity, and we're going to rebuild it from the ground up, using a totally different blueprint directly from our source material.
Because here's the hard truth. Your to-do list is lying to you. I mean, think about the traditional way we do this. You wake up, grab a pen, and just scribble down this chaotic, jumbled pile of, 10 to 15 tasks? No order, zero time limits, and what does our brain actually do with that? It completely panics. And then it defaults to the path of least resistance. We end up cherry-picking the absolute smallest, easiest things just to get a quick hit of dopamine, right? And then we abandon the hard stuff, and honestly, usually the entire list by lunchtime. Listen, you weren't lazy. Your list was just built completely wrong from the get-go.
So how do we actually fix this? Well, we're taking a massive 14-step framework from the text and boiling it down into 5 intuitive phases. First, why your list fails. Second, capturing and clarifying tasks. Third, prioritizing what actually matters. Fourth, scheduling for success. And finally, building the progress mindset. Let's get into it. All right, kicking things off with Phase 1, why your list fails. Let's look at the psychology of a broken system.
We really need to unpack the hidden psychological toll a messy list takes on your brain. The science behind all that stress you feel, it actually comes down to something called the Zeigarnik Effect. Essentially, this is your brain's biological tendency to hold on super tightly to tasks you haven't finished, remembering them way more vividly than the ones you've already knocked out. So when you leave a giant list unfinished, it doesn't just, sit quietly on your desk. It is actively tugging at your brain all day long. It's the exact reason you can feel completely scattered even when you are literally working your tail off. These unchecked boxes quietly damage how we view our own discipline, basically tricking us into thinking we're bad at our jobs, when in reality, we're just fighting our own biology.
Moving right along to Phase 2, capture and clarify tasks. Time to empty your brain and sharpen your focus.
Okay, so step 1 of the framework is what they call the brain dump. Basically get every single random thought out of your head and onto a master list, just to free up that mental real estate. But step 2, this is where the real magic happens. Hiding giant projects as single line items, that is incredibly dangerous. Take a look at write paper. That is not a task, that's a massive project. It overwhelms you because it's completely vague. You have to break it down. Things like find 5 sources, or make an outline, or write first draft. You've got to use clear, bite-sized pieces with strong action verbs. Vague words create vague action, but clear verbs, they create immediate movement.
Next up, you need to add context. Drop phone numbers, links, emails right there into the task itself so you never have to go hunting for stuff when it's go time. And this part is absolutely crucial. We have to separate doing from consuming. A huge mistake people make is tossing articles they want to read or YouTube videos to watch right next to their actual deep work. Casual content consumption is not a task. Shove all of that into a separate Read Later app. Your core list needs to be exclusively for things that actually move your work or life forward. Which brings us to Phase 3, prioritize what actually matters, or how to find the signal in the noise.
Look, a list without priority just makes tiny, irrelevant tasks look deceptively equal to massive, life-changing ones. So let's apply the classic 80-20 rule here. Take a look at your master list and honestly ask yourself, if I could only do one single thing today, which one would actually matter? The source material highlights that a tiny fraction of your tasks, usually just 10 to 20%, create almost all of your actual results. The rest of it, it's just noise. Sure, it feels productive to check off, but it barely moves the needle. You have to locate that vital 20% and put your energy there first.
And once you know what really matters, you have to constrain your daily list. Enter the 1-3-5 method. You get 1 big task, 3 medium tasks, and 5 small tasks. Period. That is it. Keep your daily commitments under 10 items. You might be wondering, why so few? Well, because a short list actually gets finished. A sprawling list of 20 items just gets abandoned, and it secretly makes you feel like you're constantly falling behind. Setting constraints is actually what gives you freedom here.
All right, Phase 4, schedule for success, matching your time, energy, and execution.
This phase is all about matching up your time, your biological energy peaks, and your actual execution.
Because a task without a specific time slot, it can stretch out forever. We solve this by time blocking and day theming. Instead of just writing write report, you write write report, Tuesday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Or if your work is just all over the place, try theming your days. Maybe make Friday your dedicated admin day. Doing this drastically cuts down on the mental friction of constantly switching gears. It literally turns a vague wish list into a concrete daily plan that builds serious momentum.
Now let's rapid-fire some execution techniques from the text. First, eat the frog, meaning put your absolute hardest task right in your peak energy window, which for most of us is first thing in the morning. Second, the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, honestly, don't even write it down. Just do it instantly so it doesn't clutter up your mind. Third, plan your day the night before. This removes all that morning guesswork. And finally, if you're the kind of person who gets stuck on one thing for way too long, use loud alarms to force your brain to actually transition between tasks.
And then there's this step. It's kind of brutal, but absolutely necessary. You have to track your real time. Look, most of us are terrible, just awful, at estimating how long things take. So keep a time log for your regular daily actions for just a few days. Showering, answering emails, your commute. Once you realize that answering emails actually takes a full hour and not the 20 minutes you told yourself, you can finally start planning accurately. When your data's real, your daily plan finally stops lying to you.
Which leads us nicely into our final phase, Phase 5, the progress mindset, redefining productivity.
This is arguably the most crucial psychological shift in this entire explainer. We really need to redefine what productivity actually means. And it starts with how you talk to yourself. Notice this simple wording change. Negative phrasing, like "don't forget to call the client," operates on fear, right? It creates immense pressure. But a positive, direct phrase, like "call the client to discuss the project," well, that pulls you toward action. It's a tiny tweak, literally just a few words, but rewriting your tasks to sound like active, positive choices gives a huge boost to your daily motivation.
So the absolute climax of all this is right here. A to-do list isn't a set of promises, it's a menu of options. Guys, this is the mindset shift that changes the whole shebang. You have to assume, by default, that most tasks on your master list won't get done today. And guess what? That is completely normal. It's not a failure. Your list is just a menu of how you might spend your time, right up until you actively commit a few specific items to today's schedule.
We absolutely have to stop measuring our worth by how many boxes we check off. The true measure of a successful day is actually this question right here. Did you do what you said you were going to do for as long as you said you would without getting pulled away? Busy is not the same as productive. Checking off 10 tiny tasks is just a distraction. Focusing deeply on one big task, now that is progress. The goal was never to have a completely full checked-off list.
Which leaves us with one final challenge from our source material. Tonight, right before you go to sleep, I want you to do a full brain dump. Get it all out. Then look at that list and ask yourself, what are my top 3 tasks for tomorrow? Pick just 3. Give them actual, real-time blocks on your calendar. And then tomorrow morning, start with the absolute hardest one first. Just try it for one day and see how totally different you feel by lunchtime. Because, if your list is finally telling the truth, what could you actually accomplish?